Okay, so we'll be discussing pigments. Now, what are pigments? Pigments are colored substances seen in living organisms. They may be endogenous pigments, which are normally present in the body and gets accumulated in certain conditions, or they may be exogenous pigments, which enter inside the body through inhalation, ingestion, or inoculation. Now, the endogenous pigments, they may be melanin, homogentisic acid, hemoprotein-derived pigments, or lipofuscin. They are broadly classified into these four types. Starting with melanin, you all know that this is a brown-black pigment commonly seen in the basal layer of the skin, where it is synthesized in melanocytes and dendritic cells. How? Because these cells have the enzyme tyrosinase. This tyrosinase converts tyrosine into melanin. But in some conditions, this enzyme is inactive. So melanin cannot be appreciated. So how will you detect melanin in these conditions? Where tyrosinase is present but it is not active. In these conditions, we have DOPA reaction. Now, what is this DOPA? It is dihydroxyphenylalanine, that is DOPA. So, you keep the tissue section with this DOPA, that is dihydroxyphenylalanine. If the enzyme is present, however it is inactive, if it is present, a dark pigment is identified. So, this reaction is known as DOPA reaction. And it is particularly useful in differentiating amelanotic melanoma from another anaplastic tumors. Okay. Now you all know that this is melanin in the basal layer of the epidermis. Now disorders of melanin pigmentation may be localized hyperpigmentation, generalized hyperpigmentation, or localized and generalized hyperpigmentation. Starting with localized hyperpigmentation, it may be seen in café au lait spots, that are pigmented patches seen in neurofibromatosis and Albright syndrome, Peutz-Jeghers syndrome, in which there is focal perioral pigmentation, melanosis coli, in which there is pigment in the colon, melanotic tumors, which may be benign and malignant, and lentigo, which is a pre-malignant condition, and lastly dermatopathic lymphadenitis, that is presence of melanin pigment in macrophages of the lymph nodes which are draining the skin lesions. So these are the examples of localized hyperpigmentation. Like here, these are café au lait spots, localized hyperpigmentation because of melanin accumulation. This is perioral pigmentation in Peutz-Jeghers syndrome. Generalized hyperpigmentation occurs in case of Addison's disease, where there is generalized hyperpigmentation of skin and buccal mucosa. Chloasma, commonly seen in pregnancy in women taking OCPs, where there is hyperpigmentation of the face, nipples, and genitalia. Chronic arsenic poisoning may lead to hyperpigmentation, generalized hyperpigmentation known as raindrop pigmentation of skin. Like here you see, this is chloasma and this is the raindrop pigmentation of skin seen in arsenic poisoning. After hyperpigmentation comes localized hypopigmentation. So localized hypopigmentation may be seen in leukoderma or vitiligo, and acquired focal hypopigmentation may be seen in leprosy, wound healing, DLE, radiation dermatitis. Like here it is leukoderma or vitiligo. Generalized hypopigmentation is seen in albinism. Albinism occurs when there is defective tyrosinase. I have told you previously that tyrosinase is required for conversion of tyrosine into melanin. So these patients have defective tyrosinase. That's why there is no melanin. The albinos have blonde hair, poor vision, and severe photophobia. And also it is a precancerous lesion. It is precancerous lesion to squamous cell carcinoma and basal cell carcinoma of skin. So after melanin, the next endogenous pigment is homogentisic acid. Homogentisic acid is melanin-like pigment, and it occurs when there is a deficiency of oxidase enzyme required for the breakdown of homogentisic acid. So this homogentisic acid, it gets accumulated and it has a melanin-like appearance, and it gets accumulated in the cartilage, capsule of joints, ligaments, and tendons. Also, it gets excreted in the urine. If you keep the urine of these patients for some time, it turns black. Why? Because of oxidation of homogentisic acid, and this condition is known as alkaptonuria. So accumulation of homogentisic acid, that is ochronosis, it may be commonly seen in the cartilage of the pinna. This is ochronosis. Also, melanin-like pigment gets accumulated in the cytoplasm of the hepatocytes in Dubin-Johnson syndrome. Now, Dubin-Johnson syndrome is an autosomal recessive form of hereditary conjugated hyperbilirubinemia. So, you must remember there's melanin, and there are melanin-like pigments like seen in ochronosis and in Dubin-Johnson syndrome. Next are very important group, hemoprotein-derived pigments. So these pigments are derived from hemoglobin, cytochromes and their breakdown products. These are hemosiderin, hemozoin, bilirubin and porphyrins. So what is ferritin and what is hemosiderin? Ferritin is iron and apoproteins. Iron plus apoproteins is known as ferritin, and accumulation of ferritin, aggregates of ferritin are known as hemosiderin. So if you look at the slide under the light microscope, hemosiderin is seen as golden yellow or brown pigment within mononuclear phagocytes of bone marrow, spleen and liver due to breakdown of old RBCs, like here. To demonstrate it further, you can use the Prussian blue reaction of the Pearl stain. Now what is the principle of this Pearl stain? Pearl stain has colorless potassium ferrocyanide. So this colorless potassium ferrocyanide reacts with ferric ions of hemosiderin to form deep blue ferric ferrocyanide, and it is detected easily. Now localized hemosiderosis may be seen in cases of hemorrhage into the tissues. As you have seen, there is a bruise, a black eye. It changes from red to blackish color through transformation into bilirubin and biliverdin. It is finally converted into hemosiderin, leading to a series of color changes in the bruise. Another example of localized hemosiderosis is brown induration of lungs, which is seen in mitral stenosis and left ventricular failure. This condition has heart failure cells. You all must be knowing these are nothing but hemosiderin-laden macrophages, which are brown in color. This is also an example of localized hemosiderosis. Generalized hemosiderosis is seen in cases of increased iron overload, and the excess iron may be deposited in organs like liver, pancreas, heart or kidney, or it may be deposited in reticuloendothelial system only. Now generalized hemosiderosis occurs mainly in three conditions. Number one, when there is increased RBC breakdown, increased intestinal absorption of iron and increased intake of dietary iron. Increased RBC breakdown occurs when in cases of chronic hemolytic anemia. Now RBCs get broken down, they have hemoglobin and hemoglobin has iron, so there is excessive deposition of iron. Also it gets worsened. Why? Because in chronic hemolytic anemia, increased blood transfusions are given, so it adds to the iron overload. Increased parenteral iron therapy may add to the iron overload, and these iron deposits, they get deposited in the reticuloendothelial system first and then the other organs. Secondly, increased intestinal absorption of iron. It is seen in hemochromatosis. Now what is hemochromatosis? Hemochromatosis is an autosomal disease. It is a hereditary form of hemosiderosis. That is, there is increased absorption of iron even when the iron intake is normal. Iron intake is normal, but there is increased absorption, more than normal absorption. So hemochromatosis is nothing but it is a genetic form of hemosiderosis. Okay. Now hemochromatosis has a triad of pigmentary liver cirrhosis, pancreatic damage leading to diabetes mellitus and skin pigmentation. Because of these two conditions, it is known as bronze diabetes. Thirdly, there is increased intake of dietary iron. In some black tribals, this is a disease known as Manti's disease, wherein these tribal people, they brew their alcohol in cast iron pots, and from these pots excess iron seeps into the alcohol, and when they consume this alcohol with lots of iron, it gets accumulated in their organs, leading to generalized hemosiderosis. After hemosiderin, the next hemoprotein-derived pigment is hemozoin or acid hematin. It is nothing but when hemoglobin is treated with an acid or present in an acidic environment, hemoglobin changes into acid hematin. It is commonly seen in chronic malaria and mismatched blood transfusion where there is acidic environment. The point to note here is that it is a brown-black pigment and it does not stain with Prussian blue like hemosiderin. Formalin pigment is also a type of hematin pigment where excessive blood in some organs gets reacted with the formalin and leading to formation of acid hematin. Third hemoprotein derived pigment is bilirubin, and the normal levels of bilirubin is less than 1 milligram per deciliter. If it is more than 1 milligram per dl, then it gives yellowish tinge to the skin. And you all must be knowing that it is of three types: pre-hepatic, hepatocellular and post-hepatic. So here I must emphasize that you must know the pathway of bilirubin formation. All of you must know the steps in the formation of bilirubin and how it is metabolized further. Category of hemoprotein derived pigments are the porphyrins. Now porphyrins are normal pigments present in hemoglobin, myoglobin and cytochromes. And what are porphyrias? Porphyrias are genetic deficiency of any of the enzymes required for the synthesis of heme. So you must be knowing that heme formation of the hemoglobin, the heme part, requires a series of steps. There is a pathway of formation of heme, and it includes various enzymes and various byproducts. So you must know the pathway of heme formation, and wherever there is deficiency of any enzymes, it leads to accumulation of its substrate, because there is no enzyme to act on the substrate, so it gets accumulated. Porphyrias are broadly of two types. They may be erythroid or hepatic. Erythropoietic porphyrias or hepatic porphyrias. In erythropoietic porphyrias, there is congenital erythropoietic porphyria and erythropoietic protoporphyria. Now in congenital erythropoietic porphyria, there is accumulation of uroporphyrin and coproporphyrin. These are in excessive amounts and they are excreted in urine, giving red color to the urine. Also, the skin is photosensitive and the bones and skin also show red-brown discoloration. In erythropoietic protoporphyria, there is accumulation of protoporphyrin. However, there is no excretion of protoporphyrin in the urine. Hepatic porphyrias occur when there is defect in synthesis of heme in the liver. There may be acute intermittent porphyria, in which there are acute episodes of abdominal, neurological and psychotic manifestations, and there is excessive delta aminolevulinic acid and porphobilinogen. So when you go through the steps involved in heme synthesis, you will come across these terms: delta aminolevulinic acid, porphobilinogen. So these all get accumulated in cases of porphyrias, and they give color to the skin or to the urine. These are all hemoprotein derived pigments. Porphyria cutanea tarda is the most common of all porphyrias, and here porphyrins collect in the liver and small quantities excreted in the urine. And the skin manifestations are similar to the mixed or variegate porphyrias, which is a rare porphyria, and it has skin photosensitivity and acute abdominal and neurological manifestations. Now the last endogenous pigment is the lipofuscin or lipochrome, that is the wear and tear pigment. It is a yellowish brown pigment and it is seen commonly in perinuclear location and in the senile tissues like myocardial fibers, hepatocytes, Leydig cells of testis, neurons in senile dementia. On light microscopy, it is coarse golden brown. You must remember the color of each pigment. A coarse golden brown granular pigment around the nuclei. In heart muscles, it is associated with muscle wasting, and the condition is known as brown atrophy of the heart. The point to note here is that it is stained by the fat stains, and also it is fluorescent and acid fast. Okay. So this is how lipofuscin looks like. This is the nucleus and perinuclear golden brown pigment. On electron microscopy, there are intralysosomal electron dense granules in perinuclear location. So after the endogenous pigments come exogenous pigments, where they may be inhaled, ingested or inoculated inside the body from outside. The inhaled pigments, we all live in the urban areas and there's lots of atmospheric pollution and smoking, so lots of carbon gets deposited in our lungs. The other substances, other pigments which may get deposited in lungs are carbon, gold dust, silica, stone dust, iron oxide, asbestos and other organic substances. The carbon which gets deposited in our lungs is anthracosis. It usually does not cause any reaction, but if it is there's excessive deposition over a long period of time, Then persistent inflammation may lead to fibrosis and impaired respiratory function. These inhaled pigments, they are taken up by the macrophages. They may either get coughed out or they may settle in the lung. They may go to bronchioles and lymphatics to the lymph nodes. And lots of pigments and particles also get deposited in the lungs in various pneumoconiosis, which are occupational lung diseases like silicosis, asbestosis, etc. These all lead to interstitial lung diseases. After inhaled pigments come the ingested pigments. The chronic ingestion of certain metals may produce pigmentation like argyria, that is ingestion of compounds containing silver. It may lead to brownish pigmentation. Chronic lead poisoning, it may lead to a blue line on teeth at gum line. Melanosis coli, whereas prolonged ingestion of cathartics leads to pigmentation of the colon. Even in conditions like excessive intake of carrots may lead to yellowish red discoloration of skin, that is known as carotenemia. This is the blue lead line on the gums. Lastly, there are injected pigments. And injected pigments are seen in cases of tattooing, wherein pigments like India ink, cinnabar, and carbon, these are all introduced into the dermis, and the pigment is taken up by the macrophages present in the connective tissue, and they stay there. Other cases of injected pigments are like in prolonged use of ointments containing mercury or any dirt in a wound may lead to pigmentation of the skin. So that's all for pigments.